Hello everyone, welcome to Desert Succulent, and for today we're gonna be talking about Agave Potatorum, and it's commonly known as the butterfly agave or the drunkard agave. Its name is derived from a Latin word na ang ibig sabihin is of the drinkers kasi this now refers to the general use ng ating mga agave to make alcoholic beverages. Itong plant na to has a very thick and sturdy leaves which now grows in a symmetrical rosette pattern, and if you will be doing this kind of angle, you would see how beautiful it is from the top. And as I've mentioned earlier, makapal nga talaga yung kanyang leaves. The feeling of it, if you're gonna be touching it, is very similar sa sandpaper or yung liha natin in Tagalog. Ganon yung kanyang texture. Talagang magaspang siya, and yung color niya is silvery green in color, and there are times wherein this one is variegated. It's like a green color variegated with yellow. Yung kanyang leaves may reach about 18 inches long, and they could vary in shape depende na yan kung anong klaseng agave ang meron kayo. Up close you would see the details ng kanyang leaves, parang may leather na naka-overlap sa another leather. Ganon yung kanyang itsura. And each leaf now is tipped with this chestnut brown na spine. So you would see, ayan, ganyan ang kanyang spine. Itong ating mga spines na to are needle sharp. Matulis talaga siya, and if I will be doing this na intentionally talaga, it can penetrate yung ating gloves and even our skin. So ganun siya ka-tulis. That's why you have to be extra careful when handling this kind of plant. In addition to these 1 inch na mga terminal spines sa kanya once it matures, the leaves also are edged with these parang short marginal na spines, and these are sometimes called yung teeth. Yung buong leaf niya talaga have these kind of teeth, and also itong teeth na to are also very sharp. This kind of agave now produces clusters of green or yellow flowers atop of a tall stalk, and when we are talking about a tall stalk, talagang matangkad siya. Our agave right now is still very small as compared to its adult size. They could grow up to 20 feet high, and they could also have some tinges of red sa kanya. So we also need to remember na itong ating mga agaves are monocarpic. Ibig sabihin na once they bloom or nagkaroon sila ng flowers, they would eventually die. Although it would take so many years before nga mag-bloom itong ating agave, and at the time na nag-bloom siya, it will be giving you a lot of offsets already. It's important to remember na this particular species is a tropical succulent, and therefore warm temperatures and lots of sunlight are preferred in order for it to thrive. This also enjoys yung ating full sun except in areas kung saan yung afternoon sun is really punishing or sobrang init, lalo na pag tag-init or summer season dito sa Pilipinas. And in any case na ganun ang nangyari, we can also provide some shade sa kanya to prevent nga scorching or sunburn ng kanyang leaves. As with all succulents, we have to resist the urge of watering it frequently. Instead, we have to provide the plant with a slow, deep watering only after the soil has dried out completely. In any case na nakalagay siya sa isang open area like I do, then you have to check it from time to time for signs of overwatering. Baka maging mushy or nag-start na mabulok yung kanyang mga bottom na leaves or even sa pinaka-top na part. You always have to check that out para maagapan natin. Fertilizing our agave is also one thing that you need to consider. Of all of my succulents, isa ito sa mga hindi ko nilalagyan ng fertilizer. Kasi nga, as I have mentioned earlier, monocarpic sila. As you know, yung ating mga fertilizers, they do really stimulate the plant to bloom. And if that happens nga, as I mentioned, mamamatay siya, and I don't want to lose itong ating agave, especially na maliit pa lang naman siya. Instead, we can always top off yung ating substrate or itong ating soil mix with fresh cactus or succulent mix na you have. You can do that every year, or if you want, you can also try to change yung kanyang soil every 2 years. We should not need to repot our agave frequently, and the first time I repotted this was nung nasa nursery tray pa lang siya. Probably siguro ganito pa lang siya kaliit noon or even smaller. Then nilipat ko siya dito. Almost 1 year na din siya dito sa pot na to. Although na lumaki na siya, hindi niya pa naman totally na outgrow yung kanyang pinaka pot, and itong ating species na ito is very slow growing sila. And like most agaves, they prefer to be a bit pot bound or root bound nga before we do repot them. Ayaw din nila yung parang palipat-lipat ka ng container. It's like, for example, after a month or after 2 months, we will be repotting it in a separate pot. They don't want to be disturbed or to be handled that way. But instead, it's best nga to choose for a pot kung saan nyo siya gustong ilagay. Then you have to keep it there for quite some time. Propagating them is very simple kasi this plant produces suckers or yung kanyang offsets during its lifetime. And we wanted to remove itong mga ito. Right now, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 suckers or offsets itong ating agave. So we can always remove them if we want, but the best way for us to remove nga or separate itong ating mga offsets is tanggalin natin siya mismo sa kanyang pinaka-roots. But we can only do that if tatanggalin din natin itong ating mga soil. So that is something that you can do pag magre-repot nga tayo sa kanya. Like for example here, medyo nakalabas naman siya. So I can just simply pull this out gently. Ayan. So we can just remove itong mga dead leaves or dried leaves sa kanya. We can just plant this in a separate pot and we have a new Agave Potatorum. Very low maintenance itong ating agave na ito, and from time to time we have to remove some of the dead leaves kasi normal lang naman yun na talaga yung bottom leaves nila would eventually dry and die. Medyo mahirap din magtanggal ng kanyang leaves. So look at this, ganyan yung itsura ng kanyang dried na leaves, hindi rin siya madaling tanggalin. And if for example the time has come na your agave has already bloomed, we have to cut away yung kanyang stalk, and syempre yung ating parent plant would also die, kaya we also need to remove it and allow the suckers or yung mga offsets niya to grow. You also need to check for some pests like yung ating mga mealybugs, but in addition to that one, we can also look for cactus longhorn beetles, yung ating mga soft scales insects, and yung ating agave snout weevil. Hindi rin ligtas sa mga fungal infections itong ating agave na ito. For example, our plant is infected nga with these kind of fungal infections, then we have to treat it right away. Yung ating mga fungal infections kasi are a result of fungal spores which are now caused by excessive moisture. What we can do is try to apply nga yung ating broad spectrum. In my case, we are using the Turagi Blue na fungicide from time to time, every 3 to 4 months for maintenance, or every 2 weeks pag talagang may existing na fungal infection siya. But overall, in order for us to prevent those kind of fungal infections, we have to provide this plenty of sunlight, and we should be putting it in an area with good air circulation. Lastly, when we are talking about the toxicity nitong ating mga agave, we have to remember na lahat ng ating agave contains a poisonous sap which now cause a rash or irritation sa ating mga skin. And if, for example, we accidentally ingested yung kanyang sap, it can cause some gastrointestinal distress. In simple terms, baka sumakit yung ating tiyan. And syempre, since it has these very sharp spines, you have to be extra careful if you have like kids around, kasi alam niyo naman ang ating mga bata, they just kept on playing, especially na maganda siyang tignan. It looks like a plastic na plant, and if, for example, they mishandled it, then it can cause serious injury sa ating mga kamay. And that's all for our Agave Potatorum. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You may also visit our Facebook page at Desert Succulent PH.